Hey there, everybody. Welcome to this interview with the founders and the owners of For Patriots. If you're not familiar with this company, For Patriots is all about common sense emergency preparedness. And I don't think you're going to find any kind of zombie apocalypse supplies on their website, but you probably could maybe, find some to do double duty. But that's not what their company is about, and that's not what our conversation is about today. We're actually zeroing in on something that became very personal to me and my family last year, 2024, with two long term power outages. And as a survival mom for years, I've been talking about food storage and having water, having some flashlights around, and so on. But it wasn't until our power was out for 5 days during the first outage, and then 11 days about 3 months later during the second outage, that it dawned on me that a backup power supply is the first and maybe the most important prep. Because if you've stockpiled your food and your power goes out, it doesn't take long at all for food to deteriorate quickly in high temperatures. If the temperatures are extreme, whether very hot or very cold, those are threatening events. So today we're going to talk about the role of solar generators. And solar generators attract a lot of attention because, first of all, right away that solar is free, not initially, but the power itself is free. And you learn that, hey, it's quiet, it's not going to attract attention. It has a lot of benefits, and we're going to be covering some of those. But I wanted to first just lay out the importance of having some kind of backup power system. And that is going to be the focus. With me are Alan and Erin Balor, again, founders and owners of For Patriots. So we're going to, right now on the cusp of hurricane season here in Southeast United States. It's big in the news. I mean, the scary headlines have already started. Millions are, told to prepare for the worst. Well, okay, we want to be prepared, but we're going to dive into the role of solar generators with typical hurricane events. Now, if you're living in the middle of Arizona, like I did for a long time, or you're living someplace where you're pretty sure you're secure of a hurricane, I want to point out that a hurricane serves up very high winds. And they can be sustained, they can be short term. But if you live in an area with tornadoes, with dust storms, with any kind of wind damage, you know that it doesn't take a hurricane for you to discover, oh my gosh, the wind knocked over our shed, or the wind, toppled over some trees on our property. They also bring flooding. And I happen to live in a place that was flooded up to the rooftops during Hurricane Harvey. And in fact, for years, when you looked up the name of my town, the main photos that Google showed you were these massive flooding photos, as if that's all that was happening. But rivers flood, lakes flood, dams have, issues with, maybe possible dam failure. So flooding and water damage, but anything, no matter where you live, that is part of your concerns. And then finally, intense rainfall, where so much rain falls so quickly that you worry about, your property, you worry about your home, and so on. So all of those kinds of things, yes, they're all wrapped up in a hurricane, but as individual weather events, they're pretty universal. And actually, frankly, the only thing that hurricanes don't give us is snowfall. So I have yet to see I think a hurricane can serve up sharks if you've seen Sharknado, but no snow when it comes to a hurricane. However, it's not just weather events. It's the grid failure. It's someone running into a power pole down the street, and all of a sudden the neighborhood goes black. And natural disasters, all of those lend themselves to events where the power can go out for a few hours or many, many days. And again, it's just a foundational part of being prepared. So we're going to talk about solar generators. We're going to zero in on that specifically, honestly, because of the high level of interest and the number of questions I've gotten over the years. So Alan and Erin, I have a number of questions here for you. I have furnished them to you beforehand, just in case you needed to do some homework, which I don't think you had to. But I want to talk about, you have a line of solar generators and solar panels. And who is the typical customer that seeks out those particular products? Age range, is it more men, more women, rural, urban? Just tell us a little bit about that, because I think they relate to everybody.
Great. Well, first of all, Lisa, thank you for having us. It's great to speak with you and your
We're
audience.
big fans.
We're big fans. It's a pleasure. So, and we're excited about the content that you're going to be providing. To answer your question, our primary customers are self-reliant folks all over the country who are looking for peace of mind in an emergency.
Yeah, we have a lot of our customers are women and mothers. Some of them are people who live alone and want to make sure that they can provide for themselves, but it really runs the gamut. Especially people who live in rural areas, often are more open, because they have a lot more understanding of how remote they are and that they need to be able to take care of themselves. But honestly, we have customers in every single state, every single income bracket, everything you can imagine.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, it's not just folks in a hurricane zone. If you think about what happened last year with Hurricane Helene, it started in Florida, but went all the way up to Ohio. And there
Mhm.
were folks in North Carolina who were without power for days, sometimes weeks.
Weeks. And they never expected that that was going to impact them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and so many of folks out there and our customers, just modern life, people depend on access to power for communications, with your cell phone or such. Folks are looking for comfort when the power goes out. How do you power your lights? How can you keep your medicine and your food cold in
Mhm.
your fridge?
Yeah, keep preserving food, especially with how expensive groceries are these days. Preserving food is a huge priority for our customers.
Totally. And one thing that we've noticed is, as you have just explained, there's definitely been an increase in extreme weather that's been happening, whether it's hurricanes or ice storms. Back in Texas several years ago, that deep freeze happened and really knocked out power. And I think a lot of folks out there are understanding that our power grid is aging and it can be unreliable, whether it's due to a natural event like a storms or just infrastructure. So folks are looking for solutions, and there are lots of solutions out there from a whole home to something that's more portable like what we offer. And the portable nature is great because they can be more affordable for folks. They will power a few critical devices rather than your whole home. You can take them with you. So, unlike a whole home thing, which is stuck to your home, you can take a portable generator like the kinds that we offer. You could take it camping. You could take it fishing. You could take it in your RV. We've got customers, parents who will use it to power a video projection in their backyard for their kids. So there are all
Also
sorts
to
of,
inflate a bounce house. We've seen that one too.
that's
Oh,
right.
wow.
But I think people just realize that I mean, I know I can just speak from our personal experience. We live in Tennessee. We live in a suburb. We're not very remote, but we've even noticed over the last few years that we get power outages several times, especially and basically anytime we have a big rainstorm or big storm, it seems like our power gets knocked out, and outages that used to last for a couple of hours are now lasting for an entire day or overnight or even a couple of days. Like it just seems like the outages are happening more frequently and they're lasting longer
They
because
are.
I think it's,
Interesting.
the infrastructure is more stretched thin. It's harder for them to repair it. Maybe the population has gotten bigger and they weren't prepared for that. But for whatever reason, we've
Mhm.
definitely noticed over the years that it seems like it's become a more common
For
occurrence.
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, I here where we live, we've been in Texas now 12 years. And uh, for a few years, our house is near a fire station. And so when we would hear pockets around, many pockets around town where, power's out again, I never was. But about 3 years ago, they did something different with the power connections to that power station. And all of a sudden, we're in the same boat just about as everybody else.
Wow.
So when the power goes out, there's some, you can kind of ride that wave for a while. If the weather is temperate, maybe if you don't have anyone who is sick or around the house, because there are certain categories of people who just they cannot endure extreme temperatures
Right.
like an average healthy person can. So if someone is elderly with maybe with chronic health issues, babies, toddlers, pregnant women, those categories of people are really going to need a power source more quickly and for the duration than maybe some single guy or gal or whatever who just thinks it's an adventure. I've heard stories. I've had women tell me stories about a long-term power outage, and the kids had the best memories of it. It was so
Like it's like
cool.
camping.
you know I know. And I'm sure the mothers in the background were thinking, oh my gosh, I have, $200 worth of beef in the freezer. It's going to be
Right.
ruined and so on.
She's tearing her hair out, and the kids are
Yeah,
like, "We're sleeping in sleeping bags on the floor."
And
right.
you bring up a great point too. Many of our customers, I mean, we're 50 plus. We won't reveal our ages, but
Mhm.
we can totally relate that as you get older, you just depend on technology differently than you did when you're in your 20s. So, for example, I have sleep apnea and I use a CPAP machine at night. So one of the
Yes.
very first usages of our portable generators, solar generators for me, was to power my CPAP so I could sleep and be healthy at night during a power outage. And something small is perfect for something like that. As Erin mentioned, we have customers, older customers with health issues who use it to power their oxygen machine during a power outage or to keep their insulin cool. So as you get older, there become more critical needs. You're
Mhm.
absolutely right. Versus when you're a kid and it's like, this is fun.
Yeah. And you're using it for some things that, are actually life preserving rather than watching TikTok videos.
Exactly.
Some
Exactly.
parents, when the power's out and the kids are just, getting antsy, maybe they do want to power up the phone so they can watch YouTube or whatever. But
Mhm.
a couple of advantages that haven't been mentioned yet, and I know that these are the ones that people mention to me most often. No
Mhm.
fumes.
Yes.
So last year, both power outages, we had our carbon monoxide alarm go off.
Oh,
Oh, that's
yeah.
so
Yeah,
scary.
it was. And so we're opening the doors and the windows and, getting the fans going. So with the solar style generator, there are no fumes
Mhm.
and there is no noise. So
No.
sometimes people worry about the amount, the level of noise. Is it going to attract attention? Portability. Um, so
Yes.
we've been kind of using and trying out two of your generators. I'm going to post the images of them here. It is the 1200 and the 2500X.
Mhm.
So briefly, because people can go to the website and they can you look at the specs and everything, but can you describe what you see as the role of each one of those and maybe for who those would be most useful?
For sure. And I just want to go back a second and really affirm what you said about why folks look at solar generators. You nailed the three things. The fact that no fumes, so it's safe to use
You can
inside.
sleep peacefully at night, not having to worry about that carbon monoxide alarm going off.
And that's actually a really big deal with gas generators, like you mentioned. Unfortunately, CO2 poisoning can be a very silent killer. And we've seen some research that indicates up to 100 plus people in America die every year because
Yeah.
they've got a portable generator that's gas powered and they either have it in their home, which is please never,
Never
never
do
do that,
that.
but even outside their window. And it can just be a tragedy because as you know, you don't smell it. It just, you can
You won't even
unfortunately
know.
pass away in your
Mhm.
sleep. The second is it is silent, which is great, not only for, just day to day and living with it, working, but also not disturbing your neighbors or drawing attention to yourself. And the third reason you nailed is the fact that it's portable. You can take it with you and
You
it's
can move it wherever in your house you
Yes.
need it to go.
100%.
So you're right. We do have the two units you're talking about are the Patriot Power Generator 1200 and the 2500X. We love both of these units. We have both of these units. They are very similar, but they have some key differences. It was important to us that they both are capable of powering what our customers have told us is their top priority, which is backup for their fridge or freezer. When you ask people what they're most worried about in a power outage, that is the thing that consistently comes up number one, which is like, I do not want to lose all my food. And so we've designed both of these to be able to cycle a fridge and freezer off and on. It won't run constantly the way that it would if it's at your house power, but you can cycle it, chill it, and then cycle it and chill it again.
Exactly. So the 1200 is our newest unit. We're very excited about this one. This was intended for more portability. It's
Mhm.
more compact and lightweight. I know that you've had a chance to use it and it's a lot easier to pick up and move around the house. It's great for camping or tailgating. It's certainly more convenient. We describe it as a mid-size power solution. The capacity is not as big. It won't run your appliances as long as something like the 2500, but it is very capable of running most household appliances. And our marketing team coined the phrase for the 1200, America's sweetheart
Yeah.
generator, because it's sort of
It's the
this,
just right solution for a lot of people.
and we're very excited about it. It's a great mix of sort of affordability and usage versus the 2500, and that refers to the inverter size, which your husband as a master electrician can tell you just means you can power bigger appliances. It's also got a much bigger battery and it's expandable. So it's got a higher output, it has a bigger battery that can last for longer, and it's expandable. So it's a more robust solution,
So
but
it can power some things that the 1200 wouldn't be able to manage, things that have what we call a high peak power draw, especially when they first turn on. So like a window unit air conditioner, a dishwasher, an RV backup battery. So things that need a higher power level spike or need to run longer, the 2500 is a really good solution for that.
we also built the 2500 to be expandable, which is great for some use cases. Some customers want to add more power, more backup power to run their things for longer. So we've created a solution where you can add up to 4 expansion batteries to the 2500, and that significantly increases the amount of time that you can operate without recharging. So the bottom line, as Erin mentioned, both are similar. One is significantly bigger. They're both useful in emergency. And which one is right is really depending on the person's individual needs.
What you want it to be able to do. The other thing you should mention about the expansion packs for the 2500 is they are batteries in and of themselves. So they can act as an expansion pack for the 2500 to increase its overall capacity, or you can separate it and take it somewhere else and plug something into that. So
Yeah.
the expansion packs aren't just inert little batteries that sit there. You can actually use them to power things.
Yeah, so for example, we have a 2500, the main unit. We also have an expansion pack. We can have the main unit in our kitchen powering our fridge while we have the expansion pack in the bedroom powering my CPAP.
Yeah.
So that's one use case, and that's a unique thing for the 2500. I don't know if anybody else out there has got that independent
Yeah.
expansion
Yeah,
battery.
and it gives people a way to potentially stair step into more power. So if they want to start, if the 2500 feels too expensive or too big, they can start with the 1200, or they can start with the 2500. They can add one expansion pack. Then if they decide they need more, they can add up to 3 more. But you can sort of find the place where you're comfortable with the amount that you want to spend and what you want it to be able to do.
Yeah.
You know, after Harvey, there were so many homes that were flooded, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And the lucky-ish people were the ones that had the two-story houses because they could live upstairs.
Yep.
And sometimes that the restoration and the rebuilding took months, as opposed to some people who then had to live in an RV or had to actually live in a hotel for many months.
Mm.
But what they got really creative about was creating a kitchen upstairs once they had an electric connection. And I'm thinking that something like the 2500X, even if you didn't have the power, you know, in a certain location, let's say after a storm and much of your home is damaged or whatever, what people did is they would get like a rice cooker, electric skillet, a hot plate, and these very creative women in my town, they just made their own little tiny kitchens with whatever they had. And some
And you know how
people
people love an air fryer. I mean, come on, how much, I
yes,
mean,
the air
how
fryer.
much can you do with an air fryer?
The air fryer. Yeah, so that actually would be, if not for nothing else, just to be able to know that you could cook food, you could set up a little kitchen with whatever electric appliances you have. The 2500X would do the trick. And then because it's portable, like you said, Alan, you have it in your kitchen for a time, you wheel it down the hallway, you know, so it's, you know, maybe at nighttime everybody has something, you know, plugged in. You can charge the laptops while the refrigerators. It's versatile. Yeah. And
Or like plug in a fan, because we
oh my
know when
gosh,
air
yes.
conditioning goes out and you're trying to sleep, I mean, you will do anything.
Right. That's right. Now another question. Oh, yes, yes. So I'm looking at the package that comes with the solar generator, either size, and I'm looking at the solar panel. And I'm not the man, I'm not the master electrician in my household.
Right.
So for someone that doesn't have a lot of technical experiences, kind of walk us through just the setup of that, the solar panel, you know, maybe the best way to direction to face the solar panel. Here where I live, we have a lot of cloudy days and a lot of trees. So whatever help you can give, you know, someone like me who
Sure.
is not the most adept when it comes to tech stuff.
Well, you're not alone, by the way.
Oh,
Many of our customers are the same way. They're looking for something simple and reliable. And we
It's been
built,
a huge priority for us that we have chosen to focus on in developing our products. We actually had, I remember, I'll never forget this. We had a customer who had spent, she was so sweet, and she said, I spent hours on the phone talking to your customer service team to help me understand what I needed. She actually had been planning to buy another generator from another company, and she wound up buying ours instead, even though the other one was a little bit cheaper. She wound up investing in ours because she felt so much more confident that she could use it easily. And the other one was like, you have to download an app, and then there's Bluetooth. And she was like,
yeah.
she was just getting really scared that in an emergency, she was an older lady who lived by herself. And she's like, this is going to be too complicated for me. I just want something where I can push a button and it starts.
right.
So,
So we really built, especially the more recent units like the 1200 and the 2500X, to just be super simple, out of the box, very easy for a customer to understand. Take it out. There's one place where the solar panel plugs in.
yes.
Yeah.
There's one button to hit. There's
Mm.
no app. There's no Wi-Fi. We designed our interfaces on the LCD panel to be as user-friendly as possible.
Very
Big
clear.
LCD screens and very simple UI UX, because simplicity, especially in an emergency when something
Right.
happens, you don't
Right.
have time to go
No.
break out a manual. It's just got to
Yeah.
be,
And read the fine print. You're like, I just want it to go.
yeah.
There's a quick
Yes.
start guide that is literally one page. It's got
I
like seven
noticed that.
instructions on it.
And one other thing that we've done, which has been, we'd love for you to come attend one. This has been really well received by our customers, is we have a customer education team who are real experts in the field. And they host free online training seminars
Oh,
2 or 3 times a week,
Webinars, yeah.
webinars
nice.
on various topics. I mean, we'd love to have you come guest present. You'd be amazing.
Okay.
But one of the things that we do for owners of the 1200 and 2500 is we invite them, and they're live. There's a Q&A session, and our team of experts are like, okay, here's how you unbox the unit. It's very simple. Here's how you operate it. Here are some questions that people typically have. And having folks go through that live and see it, even though we try to make it as simple as possible with a quick start guide and designing the product to be really easy, we found that these training sessions are great.
Now, I do have one observation because both of these are pretty heavy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was looking on the website and I didn't like, I know the weights are there. The 1200, any idea, ballpark figure how much that weighs?
Yeah, it's about 27, 28 pounds in that
Okay.
range. And I believe the 2500X, the much larger unit,
Yes.
is close to 65, so
It's
significantly
it's
heavier.
it's a big boy.
It
That's
is a big boy.
well,
And
here's what I love because y'all sent me one of your, it's like a little furniture dolly type things on wheels.
The
yes,
Okay.
roll and go cart.
Yes.
yes,
Now, for me, what I observed is that it was a little bit, for my comfort level, I needed something bigger and more sturdy for the 2500X.
yeah.
Okay.
But here's what I love is once you have that or whatever brand, you have your generator, your big battery unit already it's strapped down to your, your pull card or whatever you're going to use.
Mhm.
You don't, you just, that's how you pull it around.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I have the solar panel also bungee corded up with it, and I
Mhm.
have some pictures of it actually. And once that's all set up, now it really is truly portable. You can pull it around to wherever you need it to be.
yeah, you nailed it. And by the way, you're doing everything right to have everything ready to go before you need it.
Absolutely.
The roll and go cart was something that actually came at a customer request. And as soon as we started to hear that feedback, we started to design that, because you're so right. With something that heavy and depending, your physical condition, even for me, that's pretty heavy. And so the roll and go cart is critical. We're going to keep making it better so that it's even easier. So
And
I'd love to get your
sturdier.
feedback so
Mhm.
that we can make that better. The 1200 is far more portable since it weighs half as much. And that's a really good
I
solution.
still like to use personally just to be safe. I like to use two hands to lift it myself, but that it's kind of the trade-off between being big enough to do what people want it to do. We
Yes.
actually had a lot of conversation when we were developing the 2500. Is it going to be too heavy for people? Like, is weight a huge factor for people. So, like we do every time we develop a new product, we talk to our customers and we said, tell us what's important to you. We have little focus groups, we have webinars,
Surveys.
surveys. We reach out to our audience and say, tell us what's important to you. And what we actually learned surprised us.
Was.
They actually said, we're okay if it's heavier. We would rather it be bigger and be able to power more things, and we will figure out how to manage the weight
Yes.
part of it. Because that was something that was really on our minds was, are we going to be capped out at how big we can make this thing because it's really important to people that it be lighter? And the feedback we got is that people are like, nope, make it big, make it so it can power the things that I want longer, and we're willing to sacrifice the weight. So when we were developing it, that was a part of our decision making process, and customers told us that the weight was not a reason for them not to get it.
Yeah.
So
Just in fact, you could even set up a path, where you have some gravel laid or some, fine gravel, and that's the path over to this, your electric panel or whatever.
where you want to set it up,
For
right?
sure.
And you talked earlier about the priorities. So things like medical equipment and lighting, the refrigerator. Yes, when the power goes out, usually the first thing you want to look at is your freezer, your refrigerator, and
100%.
then depending on the temperature, how are you going to stay cool in
Yeah.
order to just stay alive, really? How are you going to stay warm enough in the cold weather? So those are the kind of priorities that I ran into, both in all the different power outages we've had. So it's just planning ahead, as you've said, just,
I
where
will
to
tell you
put
a
it.
use case that I used it for
Yeah.
that I was not expecting when our power went out. We have more than one, obviously. So we had the freezer cycling, but our water heater
Yes.
is electric and it plugs in actually out in our garage. And I was like, I checked the specs and I was like, I think I can use this to power the water heater. And I got to tell you, the rejoicing in our house
Yeah.
when I was like, guys, we can take hot showers.
Right.
When I was able to have the generator running the water heater, it was
Uh-huh.
like, hallelujah.
Right. Oh, yeah. It doesn't take long at all just for you to appreciate just something like hot water.
Oh my
You
gosh.
know?
Oh, especially when the whole neighborhood is without power.
Right.
We've all been there, Lisa, where you're sort of, if you don't have a backup solution, you're just sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
And the anxiety about when's the power going to come back on? When are they going to
Watching your
fix it?
phone battery drain.
Right.
If you're like me, you're like refreshing the website of your local power company,
Power
trying
company.
to see when they're going to
Yeah.
get to your neighborhood.
But what's cool about portable solar generators, such as the kinds of ones that we offer and others, is that it's not just for emergency prep and power outages like you mentioned, but you can use it for fun stuff.
Yeah.
We've got customers who will take this camping.
Mm.
They'll take it to tailgates for football games, which is big here in the South, and I know it's big in Texas.
Big in Texas.
Take it to a kid's sports game. Our
Oh.
controller has a kid who plays baseball all the time, and she likes to take the 1200 to power a fan because it's hot out.
Yeah. Or she can keep her phone. I mean, those baseball tournaments last all day for like 2 days.
Right.
She's
Right.
got her whole like little portable setup. She's got her tent, she's
Uh-huh.
got her fan, she's got her computer, she's got her phone plugged in. Like, I mean, and then everybody else is like looking over enviously and they're like, can I come plug into your
That's right.
But when there's no power, someone said, in order for me to work, I've got to have my laptop charged. Does anyone have that? And my husband pointed out one of the first things is to get your Wi-Fi hooked up.
You
Yes.
you just nailed it. So that's a use case that I've done, which is many of us are remote workers. So many folks are
Right.
working at
Or
home
hybrid.
or a hybrid. And so being able to power your laptop so that you can continue working is great. But you just nailed it. Being able to also plug in your Wi-Fi and your cable modem into a generator. And so now you've got internet connectivity and you're powering your laptop. You can continue doing your work, which is great.
And I love the idea of like supporting your community too. I've seen
Yes.
people who've like set up like a power station in their yard that with like a sign that's like, hey, come and charge your phone, or like out on the sidewalk in front of their house, I think that's really important, and like you said, remote work is a great one. Powering tools and yard equipment. Like, I mean, we have a leaf blower, in our backyard. If you get up into the back of it, you're like just a little too far for an extension cord, and like, so if you have a leaf blower that's electric that plugs in or anything like that, or somebody, who's on a job site, they're like, doing, they're a contractor, you have people who use it for that. So, taking, our oldest daughter who just graduated from high school, she and a bunch of her friends were doing a camping trip on someone's property. Like someone has a rural piece of property about 45 minutes away. And she is not a camper, not a rugged person necessarily. And she was like, can I please take the generator with me, like the little generator with me, so that I can like have a fan and have my phone? And we're like, absolutely, babe.
And these are all cool use cases. Again, with a big 100-pound Generac, uh, which is a great product, gas generator. You're not going to do that on some of these use cases. The portable ones are so much more portable and so much more fun. So we love to teach folks during these online classes. It's for emergency prep, but here are some cool ways that you can use it every day and get benefit. Unlike a lot of things that we prep, that is just in case of emergency, products like these are things that can help your life and have more fun all the time.
Add to your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it just seems like more and more things are rechargeable now.
Yes.
Like more and
Yes.
more things that you buy, are, I mean, I use an electric toothbrush. My electric toothbrush used to plug with a regular AC plug directly into the wall. It died, so I had to get a new one. Well, now it's like a rechargeable one, and so it just seems like everything you get now has now become something that's designed to be used to be cordless. And so it just seems like we keep adding more things where like being able to charge it on the go would be helpful.
For sure. Yeah.
And one final thing, we haven't talked about your solar powered refrigerator, but
Yeah.
with the camping and with the stuff, going on outside in the patio when the weather is beautiful, we have been really impressed with the name of it is the Solar Go fridge.
Right.
Yes. And my husband was like, I can't believe how cold this gets.
I know, I love that product.
Multiple uses. And for that to just be a standalone item for the sports and the games, the power goes out and maybe, you don't have anything bigger, like one of the larger, more expensive solar generators or some other backup. And with the refrigerator, okay, I'm going to put, our meat in there right away. I'm going to put stuff in there where we want to make sure
medication that needs to stay.
I don't care if I lose the mustard. I don't care if I lose the pickles. I just want to make sure that if we have all that beef we invested in, I want that to be okay.
Right.
So I love the Solar Go fridge as well.
And that is another great one that it's great in an emergency, but also can just be fun because I mean, coolers are kind of a hassle. Like you have to get the ice, you have to get the big bag of ice, and you have to lug it home, and then it's melting all over you, and then and this is completely iceless. It doesn't make your drinks and your food all wet and soggy because it's got ice all over it. I mean, we have one of our employees has a cabin in Alabama that he takes his young sons to and his family for, it's like their home away from home. They take it out on the boat. They put the Solar Go fridge out on the boat and they can be out on the lake all day and there's no water dripping all over his boat and he's got icy cold drinks for everybody that lasts all day.
And what's similar to our generators, the Go fridge is obviously solar powered, but you could also plug it into the outlet when you're not in a power outage and it can run indefinitely. So we've got folks who will put it on their back porch, plug it in, and they've always got cold drinks on the back porch.
That's where ours is.
Oh, there you go. That's a great use case.
And I will say one of a use case that we have heard a lot about that, to be honest, we didn't even really think of, but that people love it for is people who live in these rural areas where maybe they go and do a big shop like once a month or once every couple of weeks they'll go do a big shop and they may have to drive a while to get
couple hours
to the Walmart or the Costco. They take that with them and they put it in the back of their truck or their car. And that way they don't have to worry about their ice cream melting and their meat getting to room temperature when they're doing their big shop and driving back to their property.
That's brilliant.
I know, I didn't even think about that, but they just keep it in. They've got it ready to go. Right. When they finish their grocery shopping, they stack all the cold stuff in the Solar Go fridge, and then they don't have to worry about oh my God, we have to get home right away before everything melts. They can do the rest of their errands in town and know that their stuff is going to be fine.
Yeah.
So any of these backup power devices, whether it's the solar generator, solar fridge, they are just multi-use. And it doesn't have to be something where you make an investment and it sits in its box and then you watch a hurricane come in and you're like, finally, we can unbox the solar generator.
Yeah, ready to use it now.
It's actually one of the most fun things for us is we definitely position the product and explain how it can help you in those emergency situations and why it's important for safety and comfort. but then it's fun to talk about all the other uses. And as we hear about it from customers, we'll put that on the website. People who want to go pilot drones out in crazy places and
Oh,
want to
yeah.
keep recharging it, or
Yeah.
the case of like the solar go fridge where it's like I've got a 6 hour trip to Walmart and then I'm going to do this errand and I want to keep my ice cream cold. So you're right. It's fun to talk about. It's necessary and helpful for this ever-changing world that we're dealing with and will protect you and your family. But
Mm.
you can also get a lot of fun out of it. Unlike, we also sell things like non-perishable food and other
Right.
things which you really keep for an emergency. This is stuff that's
Speak
fun.
for yourself, man. Those
Every
banana
day.
chips never sit around long enough to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
it to an emergency.
Well, everything about solar generators, I think we've covered. The pros, disadvantages, I don't know. The disadvantage might just be if it's on a cloudy day, it's going to take longer for it to charge. Is there some
The solar panels will recharge it, but it will take
it
longer.
takes
Yep.
longer? I have them out right now. Overcast day, my
Mhm.
2500 was at 43%.
Mhm.
So I'm going to be checking to see about how long does it take to get fully charged.
Yep.
Is there anything other before we finish up? Is there anything that we would want to leave people with? You need to keep this in mind.
Oh, that's a great question. And by the way, to your point about recharging the speed through solar, one thing that we've done is we've made our solar panels daisy chainable, which means that if you want to be able to recharge your units faster, you can just get another solar panel. It's a very easy, back to the
Just click it
simplicity,
in.
click in, you can double, triple, or quadruple the number of solar panels that you have so you can recharge it faster. So that is a solution, and we try and make it upgradable for folks who want that benefit of charging faster.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so in terms of other things that, could be potential negatives, the challenge is, of course, the runtime versus something that's powered by gas. So because a solar generator, like the things that we offer, uses a battery, the capacity, a gas can go as long as you have gas. So that might be one issue. Another one could be affordability. The cost of these units has come down. For example, the 1200 is half the price of our previous model. As technology advances, et cetera, we're able to offer more for less
More
money.
power for a little more value. Yeah.
And we've also started a rollout, which has been very popular this year in 25, which I guess is a testament to the economic environment, payment plans that allow customers who might not be able to afford to pay for it up front to pay for it over 6 to 12 months, even to make it a little bit more affordable. So I think one last thing, and we try to educate our customers so that we don't uh, create expectations that we can't meet. Portable solar generators like the ones that we offer are for a few critical devices that you have.
It's not a whole
It's
home
not a whole
solution,
home.
which I
Yeah.
think people who are looking for an alternative to a whole home solution, this is definitely a much more affordable. I mean, a whole home generator that is attached, wired into your electrical panel can be 5 figures, easy,
Oh, yeah.
depending on how much you want to power. So this is a much more affordable solution that can power the most important things, but we do have to educate people. This is not something that you're going to plug into your electrical panel and run your whole house.
For sure.
Um,
There's one positive thing that I wanted to highlight, which we've also heard, which is very unusual for this kind of product, I think, which is the technology in the batteries has really improved over time. So
Yes.
the batteries in both of these units can go for 4,000 cycles, which means that you could fully charge it and discharge it 4,000 times. And at that point, you've still got 80% of the total battery capacity. So it's something that you can use every single day. Like
I think
4,000 is that's like almost seven, 10
I
years.
think that winds up being like 10 years of average use,
Wow.
you know.
And if you're using the solar panels to recharge it, that's free electricity, in this basis for
Wow.
7 years if you're using it that way. And that's pretty cool. And folks who get into that, I mean, we're all looking to save a little money, and every little bit helps.
Yeah. I would say the one other educational thing that we try to share with people, and we talk about this, it's in the quick start guide. We try to make it very clear. You do need to take it out and check the charge about every 6 months. And we
Yes,
try to send emails to remind people like, hey, time to take a look at your generator. Because, anything that relies on a battery, if you let it drain all the way down, Sometimes that can impact, it may not charge, it'll take either a really long time or it might only charge back up to like 80%. So it's not super healthy over time to regularly let the unit get all the way down to zero. So we try to remind people like every 6 months, if you're not using it for kind of everyday use things, take it out, check it over, plug it in, give it a little juice, turn it on, and then you can store it.
It's just like your car battery, right? You wouldn't leave your car in the garage for a year and then just go in there
and then you'd be all surprised that it didn't turn over.
Everything about solar generators, easy to use, clean, quiet, portable. I always just plug mine in the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then because I use the solar as the backup. The power is out. We're down to 22%. I'm going to stick it out now in the sun with the solar panels. But just one part of an overall emergency preparedness plan. What I think is definitely, it should be a part of your power backup plan, just because it's portable and quiet and no fumes. Because you can always add something with fumes, where you have to then start worrying about storing propane. You have to worry about storing, diesel fuel or gasoline. Here, you're not storing any of those kinds of fuels.
And if you move,
I learned a lot.
If you move houses,
take it with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's making the decision to install a whole home generator. You can't take that with you, at least not very easily when you go. Apparently, we have heard stories of people who have had that thing uninstalled.
I'm gonna take it with you. It does
but
not
that's
convey.
a very expensive proposition. So, with this, if you're renting or if you might move at some point, you're always going to be able to take this with you.
And it's getting better every month, every year. So it isn't intimidating. It's something that everybody can have access to. It's gotten a lot more powerful, a lot more affordable over the years. We think it's really cool. So thank you for having us come talk about it with you. It's great.
We love to talk about this stuff.
Well, and solar generators are something that people have lots of questions about. It sounds really good. And then sometimes they think, is it too good to be true? Is there something I need to know? And I think we've covered all the major points and a whole lot more. Thanks for being with me, Alan and Erin Balor. And For Patriots has a lot of great products, not just the solar generators, not just the Solar Go fridge. Check out their website, a lot of good information, some helpful videos. I thought your website was actually very well done. It is simple. I found what I needed to find, and that's what is most important when it comes to a website.
Great. Thank you. It was great to speak with you.
This was so much fun.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye-bye.